Welcome back everyone to Blender to Unreal Engine 5, the complete beginner's guide, and this is where we left it off. Now before we move on, let's actually save it out. So file, save. I haven't saved it out for a bit and I didn't want to lose my work or anything like that. You can see here it says saved Viking Hook course, and I hope you enjoyed the actual materials and textures guide, and now we're actually going to put that into practice. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to make sure that everything is unwrapped. Now of course everything on here will be unwrapped the same. So you can see here, this is unwrapped, the actual same. So if I grab the next one, you can see they're all unwrapped exactly the same. That is because we unwrapped this one here before any of the others. So we need to now make sure that everything is unwrapped basically again, to make sure everything fits in here and everything looks different. Because at the moment, they're all going to look the same if they're unwrapped in this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of re-unwrapping them all again, because what's going to happen then is it's actually going to unwrap them and put these, rotate them around in the wrong way that we don't want them. So we don't really want to do that. So what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to hover over my UV map. I'm going to press A, and what that's going to do is it's going to grab every single one of these, even all of these behind, because at the moment, all of these are just laid over the top of each other. So every single one of these beams is laid over the top of there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come to UV and I'm going to come down to pack islands. And what that's going to do is it's going to take them all and repack them. If I click this on now, you'll see that you come up with these options here. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure rotation is ticked off. If you don't tick that off, what it means is it will rotate these little top parts on here, and we don't actually want to do that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click OK. And there we go. This is what you should end up with. Now at the moment, it doesn't really tell us anything, because we haven't got any textures or materials or anything like that. So all we've got now is a UV map that's open. But if I click on each one of these, so let's say I pick this one and grab it, you can see this is what it looks like. You can also see at the moment that these are going to be way too small on the UV map, because our actual textures that we're going to bring in are 2048. So 2048 pixels squared. And what that means is that they're not high resolution, they're not extremely low, they're not high, they're somewhere in the middle. So we just have to be careful that we don't want the resolution to drop depending on how big our UVs are. So let's first of all bring in the textures, and then I'll show you exactly what I mean. So to do that, the first thing we're going to do is bring in the node wrangler. So add on, type in node wrangler, click that on. Then what we're going to do is go over to shading. And then what I'm going to do is now I'm going to come to my principled. First of all, though, we can see that this is on materials. That's fine, actually. It'll give us an idea what it's actually going to look like before we bring in any lighting, so we'll leave it on there. What we're going to do then is going to come over, click on my principled. And first of all, actually, let's name it. So if we bring our material over, we can see we've got all of these various types of the material. And what we want is we've got cracked wood, post-dry wood. Let's have a look at the cracked wood first. I think this is going to be the one that it is. If I go to wood light, you can see this one here. If I open it up, this is going to be the wood that actually goes over the top. So the actual roof support that holds the thatching in and things like that, that's going to be this wood. So it's going to be the cracked wood. We've got post-dry wood as well. Make sure you don't use that one. That one, if you open it up, you can see it's got some green moss and things like that. This is the one that actually sticks in the water. We go back, and then where is it? Cracked dry wood. This is the one we want. So we're going to call it cracked wood. So I'm going to put cracked wood like so. And now I've named it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control-Shift-T. Once I've pressed the principled, go to my textures, cracked wood, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these. So I'm going to select one, shift select the last one, click on principled, and there we go. It's put it on everything, which we didn't want, by the way. So we don't want it on everything. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to come to my gray box. I'm just going to minus this off. So I'm just going to click minus off like so. And I'm glad it didn't put it on my guy as well. All right, so let's come now to this part, and we can see what I'm talking about. Now, the thing is, because our UVs are so small, you can see we haven't got a lot of detail. They're a little bit blurry, like on this one. You can see it's a little bit blurry. That's not something we want. So what we want to do is, because this is a seamless texture, we can go to our UV map, we can grab everything, and then what we can do is we can simply scale it all up, like so. let's put this on material. So I'm going to pull this over. Now, let's actually discuss these because we haven't discussed these yet. So we have the first one, which is basically the see-through, which is called wireframe. This shows all the wireframe of the mesh and things like that. So you can see all of the, the edge loops and things like that we put in. The next one is going to be object mode. And this is basically just the outline of your objects. No materials, no lighting, nothing like that. The next one you're going to have is material mode. Now you can actually set this so it actually shows the lighting, or it can just show your actual textures and materials, which is all we want to do. And the final one then is either going to be set on Eevee or cycles. We're going to go a little bit more into depth on that a little bit later on, but at the moment you can see that it's set on Eevee and it's looking fairly gray and we can't see anything because we don't actually have any lights in the scene. So what we want to do is we want to just set this on material. We want to get this right first. So now you can see that we've brought those out. Look at how different the wood is, and look at how it's not actually a low resolution anymore. So the difference is if I bring this all the way in, as you can see now, it looks really, really blurry. Now, this is really important because actually we're going to send this through to Unreal with these UV maps. So we need to make sure that whatever we're doing, the UV maps look really, really nice. And the actual texture on them looks also really, really nice. Now, one thing I'm not happy with is, as we can see, the tops of these, they're actually going the wrong way. And I actually tried to avoid that. Let's look at the ones underneath. They're also going the wrong way. So the actual ends, they wouldn't be going this way. They would be going the other way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab them. And I think that they're all these up here. Now, to grab all those is going to be a real pain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab just these. I'm going to press B for box select. Drag them all the way over there, like so. And then I'm going to press Control plus. If I press Control plus now, you'll see it grabs them going all the way up to the ends of these parts here, basically. Now you can press Control minus as well. Let me just show you how that works. So if I I'll get my words out. If I deselect them all with AA, then I grab, let's say, just these. If I press Control plus, it'll keep going up all the way till it gets to the end. You can also press Control minus and go backwards as well. If I press Control and just hold the plus, let's try that again. So Control plus. There you go, we're going all the way up. And then we've got these that aren't obviously attached. So I'm just going to select all these like so. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to move them down with G just slightly. So just move them down very slightly. And then I can select one of these, press B, grab them all like so, and then spin them around. So you don't actually, because we're working in 2D space here, you don't need to press Z, Y, or X or anything like that. You just rotate them. So R90, rotate them. And now we can see they're looking really nice. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so now we can go back to modeling. And now what we can do is we can press Alt-H, bring everything back. And we can finally now bring in some actual lighting. Because we're gonna actually do some work on this material as well. So we brought in some lighting. We can see that we've still got, a fair few gaps on the back of it that we need to actually fix. So you can see, we can see through there, but we're going to fix that. Don't worry. We do need some gaps down. It just depends how much gap you're actually willing to actually give. So what I'll do is I'll bring actually in some lighting now. So I'm going to put it onto Eevee. So I'm going to select this one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a light now. So I'm going to press Shift A. I'm going to come down to where it says light. I'm going to bring in a sun. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my sun over here. Drag it over here. Now, the sun, unlike other lights, so I'll bring in another light just to show you. So if I bring in a point light, let's pull this over here. You can see that at the moment, we can't see any light on there until I get close. Now you can see there's a light in there. So the actual point light has a range, as most lights do. The only light that doesn't have, well, there's two actually. The only two lights that don't have a range is sunlight and moonlight. And that's why they're called infinite light sources, because they don't actually have a range like candles or anything like that. It's just a light that just carries on and on forever, basically. So we want this main light to actually be shining on our scene, and we don't have to worry how close we're putting the sun to the actual object. What we do need to worry about is the actual angle of the sun. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this light out of the way. I'm going to come back to my sun. I'm going to rotate it. So RX, let's rotate it this way first. And then what we'll do is we'll also rotate it on the Z. So rotate it this way. And now we have some really, well, not really nice line, but we have some lighting in there. Now, as I say, no matter where I put this, as you can see, moving it with the G, I'm not really doing anything to the light. If I put it over here, it doesn't matter because it's basically coming in all the way in this direction infinitely. So that's something to consider. All right, the next thing we want to look at then on the next lesson is we want to have a look over here because we have two render engines in Blender. One of them we should be using to have a quick look at what our actual scene looks like. And the second one, we should be looking at what it's going to look like more or less when it's actually rendered out. So we'll go through that on the next lesson. All right, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed that and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.